The mysterious deaths of Rob and Michelle Reiner. When Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle Singer Reiner, died at their home in Brentwood, Los Angeles, people first thought it was just a sad family event. But when the FBI got involved, everything changed. What looked peaceful on the surface was actually hiding a series of terrible events that nobody expected. The large house where the Reiner family had shared happy times was actually hiding a frightening secret under its old wooden floors. When agents found a hidden door inside the house, they thought they were just doing a normal check. But what they saw in the basement shocked even experienced investigators. They found secret documents and advanced spying equipment connected to important political people, including Donald Trump. This turned the house into a place full of danger and sadness. In one corner of the room, they found Rob's diary with very personal words that had never been shared publicly. "Dad is sorry, Nick. Please be careful." So what had been hidden in this house for so many years? Were Rob and Michelle's deaths just a family tragedy, or were they killed because of a planned conspiracy by powerful people? What the FBI is going to discover could shake up the whole investigation and show dark secrets about Hollywood that have never been revealed before. Brentwood is a wealthy neighborhood on the west side of Los Angeles, California. It's famous for its tree-lined streets, expensive homes, and for being home to celebrities, politicians, and rich people who want privacy and luxury. The area is near Sunset Boulevard and has nice weather because it's close to the Pacific Ocean. One of the most well-known homes in the area belonged to famous filmmaker Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle Singer Reiner. Their house was on a quiet but valuable street where large yards were protected by thick plants and private fences. It wasn't just a getaway home. It was where the Reiner family had lived for many years, a place they had been connected to for decades. Unlike new houses, the Reiner mansion had a classic New England style. It was almost 930 square meters and had 6 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, rooms for staff, a swimming pool, shaded gardens, and a tennis court. The house felt both warm and luxurious, and it had often been used for gatherings with friends, co-workers, and even powerful people. This house was special not just because of how it looked, but also because of its history. Built in the 1930s, it had belonged to several important people before Rob and Michelle bought it. After they purchased it, they made it into a real home, keeping both its physical space and its character for more than 30 years, filling it with memories and important family moments. From the day they moved in, Rob and Michelle used the mansion not only as a place to relax after working on artistic projects, but also as a place for many important meetings. Private parties and talks about social or political topics all happened within its warm atmosphere. Rob once said that the design and feeling of the house represented what he had dreamed about since he was young, even before he became successful. The Brentwood mansion became a huge part of the Reiner family's life. They had lived there since buying it in the early 1990s, spending more than 30 years attached to a home full of memories. Every weekend, the Reiner family's Brentwood mansion was filled with laughter and activity as Rob Reiner's children came back to spend time with their parents. Romy Reiner, Jake Reiner, and Tracy Reiner all had the habit of spending weekends together at the house. Weekend mornings started with lively talks and the smell of coffee filling the kitchen before the whole family shared meals or did outdoor activities. While the 3 children had regularly come home on weekends, Nick Reiner had only recently returned after finishing a rehabilitation program and had started living with his parents again. Nick's coming back at first brought a few small changes to the family's routine, but it also made the house feel more complete and warmer. Every family member tried to support and care for this new beginning. But tragedy struck one terrible day when Romy Reiner herself came back to visit her parents and found that Rob and Michelle had died inside the home they loved so much. Her heart broke when she saw her parents lying still on the floor. The serious injuries on their bodies turned a once familiar place into something cold and deadly. She immediately called 911 and waited for emergency workers to arrive, her heart racing and her hands shaking. When the Los Angeles Fire Department entered the house, they found Rob Reiner and Michelle Singer Reiner completely unresponsive, with no signs of life. The injuries on Rob and Michelle's bodies showed a sudden and violent attack, marked by powerful and accurate strikes. The wounds were in vital areas like the neck, head, and heart, causing fast blood loss and giving them no chance to react. Rob was found in the living room near the middle area of the house, while Michelle was found in the kitchen with serious wounds to her neck and body, lying beside the knife that had been used to prepare the family meal. Their bodies were immediately taken to the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office for autopsy. Forensic experts did a complete analysis of the injuries and evidence at the scene. The first report showed deep and serious cuts, damage to internal organs and major blood vessels, and concluded that they died from severe blood loss caused by multiple traumatic injuries. Just a few hours after Rob Reiner and his wife's bodies were discovered, Nick Reiner, the only son of Rob and Michelle, was arrested while trying to run away. Officers quickly held him and put him into a police car. Nick's eyes were quiet, but his look showed a painful struggle between regret and an unclear fear of what was coming. Inside the mansion, no one dared to speak. The air became so still that every breath seemed to make noise. Even so, a feeling of tension and unease stayed in every room, as if the house itself wasn't ready to show all the secrets it had buried. It seemed like Nick's arrest would end this heartbreaking tragedy. But that night, LAPD officers stayed around the area, quietly watching for any signs of unusual activity. And then, something nobody expected happened. The FBI suddenly and officially joined the investigation. The reason wasn't just that the case involved two people dying or regular criminal behavior. Rob Reiner, beyond his fame as a celebrated director, was also a person with major influence in political circles. He had actively campaigned and supported many causes, helped with fundraising efforts, and kept close relationships with more than a few powerful politicians. For that reason, federal authorities believed that the mansion might hold very sensitive information, material that only the FBI had the authority, ability, and security rules to handle. On the 16th, the atmosphere in Brentwood became darker than ever when the FBI arrived without any warning. Leading the team was Special Agent Nathaniel Cross, known for an investigation style that was careful, detailed, and unwilling to miss even the smallest thing. As he walked through the mansion gates, his eyes quickly looked across the garden and walkway, and he immediately felt this wasn't just a family case, but one that showed signs of politically sensitive activity. Every step Cross took inside the house was careful, because he understood very well the complicated mix of power, influence, and private secrets. Under Cross's direction, FBI agents quickly set up a secured area around the house, using audio and video recording equipment, along with devices to detect traces. The soft sound of footsteps against the old wooden floors echoed through the quiet space, making the whole mansion seem to shake in its stillness. Every corner was carefully examined, from the paintings on the walls in the bedrooms to the kitchen where Michelle had once made breakfast for the family. What had once felt warmly familiar now seemed cold and heavy under the feeling of being looked at and watched. Agent Cross quickly spoke with Sergeant Ramirez about the initial information. "We need the complete, detailed files, all evidence, and Nick's activity records, as well as the family's. Something may still have been missed," he said, his voice low and very focused. The LAPD officers nodded, understanding that the matter had now become a serious federal investigation, far beyond normal local handling. As agents moved through each room, the tension spread to the family and the neighborhood. Curious eyes looked secretly through fences, but nobody dared to come closer. The sound of equipment, the sounds of searching, and the FBI's quiet conversations hung in the air, making everything feel heavy. Every wall, every hidden corner now seemed to be holding secrets that only days earlier had been part of what looked like a quiet, happy home, silently waiting to be revealed.
A young LAPD officer, Officer Daniel Hayes, was assigned to help at the Brentwood mansion on the day the FBI did its search. With only 2 years on the job, Daniel wasn't used to big cases, but his professional instincts told him there was still something in this house that hadn't been found. As he walked along a long hallway shaded by trees, his eyes suddenly focused on a wooden wall near the library, where a narrow gap reflected light unusually. "Sergeant, I think I just saw something," Daniel said. His voice was slightly shaking, but still determined. Agent Cross walked closer, frowned as he looked at it, and then gave a small nod. With just a few movements, Daniel uncovered a hidden basement door, cleverly hidden behind the wooden panel. He and Cross pushed it open and went inside, and what appeared before them was a basement space designed with extreme secrecy. Nobody could have imagined that inside what seemed to be the very heart of the mansion, there would be a small, dark room holding danger and mystery so heavy it was hard to breathe. When the flashlight beam cut through the darkness, Daniel and Cross couldn't hide their shock. A series of steel cabinets stood almost to the ceiling, tightly locked, packed with files, documents, and recorded tapes. Daniel opened the first cabinet section and started to shake when he saw the names of many top political figures, including Donald Trump, printed on documents marked classified. Notes, printed emails, diagrams, and internal communications had been carefully kept, suggesting that if they were ever released, they could shake the entire U.S. political landscape. Daniel flipped through a thick file quickly, his eyes getting wider. "Agent Cross, look, there are names of senior officials, too, policy plans and dealings nobody has ever known about." Ramirez leaned down, touched the stack of documents, and lowered his voice with alarm. "If these things get into the wrong hands, the whole world could be turned upside down. We have to be extremely careful." But the truly shocking discoveries didn't end there. In one corner of the basement stood an old, worn desk beside a typewriter, a world map, and handwritten notes that brought to mind the image of Rob Reiner quietly studying politics alone. Nearby lay a collection of strange items, several boxes containing encrypted USB drives and memory cards, unidentified audio recordings, and a few old photographs marked with mysterious symbols in their corners. The room looked like an archive that was both analytical and deeply dangerous, a place where personal secrets crossed paths with matters of national security. Daniel hesitated, gently placing his hand on one of the old photographs. "Do you think Rob kept all of this to protect his family or to control something much bigger?" Ramirez took a deep breath, his eyes turning cold and serious. "You're not seeing the complete picture yet, Daniel. Every single item in this basement could become a trigger. One small mistake, and the entire world could be thrown into chaos." A mix of tension and fear ran through Daniel's body. He opened another cabinet, showing tracking devices, coded maps, and secret symbols all arranged like parts of a hidden strategic plan. "This is unbelievable," he whispered. "Rob Reiner wasn't just a director. He was someone else entirely, a man holding far too many secrets." Yet what truly caught Daniel's attention was in the deepest corner of the room. In the dim, uneven light of the basement sat a worn, leather-bound notebook, placed beside a wooden desk, and a few pens that had long dried out. Daniel walked closer, bent down, and took a deep breath, his heart tightening with worry. It felt as though a voice from the past was calling out to him, a deeply personal secret Rob Reiner had kept hidden throughout his entire life. He opened the first page, and the smell of old paper immediately filled the air. The slanted, steady handwriting, filled with emotion, quickly pulled him into Rob's inner world. This wasn't a political document, not classified emails or explosive exchanges, but the diary of a father recording every thought, every worry, and every word he had never spoken to his children. Daniel felt as though he could sense Rob's presence in every line, a loving father, anxious and helpless in the face of the struggles his child was forced to go through. The first entry was written to Nick. Daniel read on, and his vision started to blur. Rob wrote about his fear as his son fell into alcohol and drugs, of the times he had hidden his pain to keep the family stable, of the words he had never spoken out loud. "Nick, I know you're struggling. I just want you to know, I'm always here. No matter how lost you become, I will never leave you." Each sentence cut straight into Daniel's heart, making it impossible for him to hold back his emotions. He turned to the next page. The lines talked about Rob's sleepless nights of sitting beside Nick, silently watching him from a distance, his worry never going away. He recorded his quiet prayers, his wish to hold his son, to say what he had never managed to say.
"I only hope you understand that my love will never change, no matter what mistakes you make." Daniel deeply felt the pain, patience, and silent despair of a father who loved his child without conditions. The pages that followed showed even more conversations that never happened. Life advice, thoughts about work, and dreams Rob had wanted to share with Nick. Daniel read with a heavy heart, unable to believe that a powerful, influential Hollywood figure could be so vulnerable when it came to his son. Tears fell as he was moved by a bond between father and son more real and close than any classified document he had ever seen. The notebook didn't only record love, but also warnings, notes about the mistakes Nick had made, and Rob's inner struggle as he tried not to put more pressure on his child. "I know you're destroying yourself, but I still believe you can get back up. I can't live your life for you, but I will always be there when you need me." Daniel stood frozen, unable to hold back his emotions, deeply feeling Rob's regret mixed with an endless depth of love. Then came the final page, and Daniel suddenly stopped short. His heart seemed to stop beating, cold sweat breaking out as he read the shaking, fearful yet honest handwriting. "Nick, you are not my biological son. I know this truth could change everything, but I love you as my own flesh and blood. No one else but me will always stand by you." Daniel stood motionless, the entire room seeming to fall silent. A devastating secret never before revealed lay bare before his eyes. He gently lifted the notebook from the table, his hands shaking as a flood of emotions rose within him. Love, worry, fear, and long-held-back pain suddenly burst out. Daniel whispered, He loved Nick more than anything, even without sharing blood." Tears ran down his face as shock mixed with the understanding that the greatest secrets of the mansion weren't about politics or power, but about family bonds and unspoken suffering. Daniel carefully placed the diary into an evidence bag, both frightened and deeply moved. He turned to Agent Cross. "Sergeant, we have to protect this notebook. This isn't just evidence, it's the most important thing in this basement, the heart of a human being." Cross nodded, his expression serious, understanding that in a case that seemed centered on death and power, it was the bond between father and son that made everything far more complicated and painful than anyone had imagined. The basement fell back into silence, filled only with the scent of old paper and the faint beam of a flashlight. Daniel stood there for a long moment, looking at the pages of the diary, feeling the sadness, the hope, and the unconditional love Rob had held for his son, a love not bound by blood. He knew this discovery would change how the Reiner family was seen, and perhaps how the world would understand this tragedy as a deep testament to a father-son relationship filled with struggle, yet incredibly heartbreaking. After the secret room was discovered, the FBI's investigation direction immediately rose to a level of seriousness unlike anything seen before. This space held a large amount of classified materials connected to powerful politicians, sensitive exchanges, and projects that had never been made public. Special Agent Nathaniel Cross and the analysis team quickly went through each data file, examining every detail with extreme care to figure out whether before Rob and Michelle died, there had been any signs of pressure, threats, or manipulation. From the evidence at the scene, the FBI found a striking irregularity. Although a murder had happened, the advanced security alarm system in the expensive mansion never went off. This suggested the person who did it had deep knowledge of both the building layout and the Reiner home security system, and also appeared to be focused specifically on the secret room that Rob had protected so strongly. Every sign pointed to an intentional act carefully planned to get access to the sensitive materials Rob had. It didn't stop there. The forensic results revealed an even frightening detail. Rob and Michelle had been poisoned before the final act of violence happened. Certain rare chemical compounds were found in their drinking water and food, yet the traces were so small they would have been almost impossible to find without advanced specialized analysis. This showed the person who did it wanted to make sure the victims couldn't call for help, while purposely creating the impression that this was just a family tragedy.
The FBI also found listening and surveillance devices hidden outside the mansion, concealed in old trees and flower beds to watch Rob and his children's daily activities. This discovery further strengthened the assessment that Rob's death wasn't random, but the result of a well-planned operation targeting a person with major political influence. Rob's diary, now considered a crucial piece of evidence, continued to show the fear he had quietly written down. In shaking lines, Rob wrote that there are people who won't let me live if I reveal everything. When Daniel Hayes read that passage, he couldn't help but feel a sharp pain, because every sentence reflected the constant worry Rob had been forced to live with, even as he stayed determined to protect the truth. Recovered emails and files showed that Rob had been repeatedly pressured into meeting powerful individuals, people who demanded that he hand over or destroy the documents. The FBI seriously considered the possibility that these meetings were directly connected to Rob and Michelle's deaths. The complicated nature of political relationships and signs of domestic spying made the case very sensitive. A theory slowly formed. Could political forces be working behind the scenes, determined to silence Rob or control the information he held? Given Rob's far-reaching influence in political circles, the FBI didn't rule out the possibility that he had become a high-risk target. Agents started mapping out relationships, identifying who had accessed the materials, who had motive, and who could carry out such violence. All digital evidence, from emails and phones to storage devices hidden in the basement, was separated out for recovery and analysis. Cross stressed the need to figure out whether anyone knew about the room's existence before Rob and Michelle died, because that could be the key to an organized, planned killing. At the same time, criminal psychological profiling was started to clarify Rob's mental state before his death. Most notably were the classified files connected to top political figures, including Donald Trump, along with materials involving campaign operations and fundraising. The FBI feared that if this information leaked, not only Rob, but his entire family could be put in danger. From there, an even more tense theory emerged. Rob and Michelle may have been killed simply because he had too many secrets. All early analyses pointed toward the conclusion that this wasn't just a family tragedy, but very likely directly connected to powerful outside forces. In the middle of the wave of secrets slowly revealed from the basement of Rob Reiner's home, another suspicion immediately came up. From the moment the LAPD officially took over the case, in less than 2 days, Nick Reiner was quickly identified as the main suspect. Public attention instantly turned toward him. The media constantly reported, guessed, and built countless tragic scenarios. From TMZ, CNN, and the Los Angeles Times to many major news outlets, all of them shone a harsh spotlight on Nick, the 32-year-old man the public had come to know through the film Being Charlie, a work he co-wrote that reflected his own painful journey through addiction. Images of Nick in handcuffs, escorted late at night in South Los Angeles, spread quickly, turning him into the center of a public storm. Nick's arrest happened at a speed that surprised many people. Only a few hours after police closed off the mansion, he was taken from the scene. That speed raised a troubling question. Was Nick truly the person who did it, or was he simply a sacrificed piece in a bigger plot? Many voices suggested he may have been forced or pushed forward as a living witness to hide the real person behind it. One circulating theory claimed that Nick knew he was adopted and may have acted out of a sense of abandonment and distance from his parents. Some sources even said that on the night before the tragedy, Nick had a fierce argument with Rob and Michelle at a Christmas party at Conan O'Brien's house on the evening of December 13th, just hours before everything happened. Several guests reportedly remembered Nick acting strangely, raising his voice at his father, while Rob scolded him for inappropriate behavior. Rob and Michelle left the party early, leaving Nick behind in anger, and according to some accounts, that moment was seen as the spark that led to the next day's disaster. However, things weren't that simple. Other witnesses insisted Nick had shown no signs of aggression or violence beforehand. He continued going to church regularly, seeing a therapist, and trying to keep family relationships strong. Reports from the rehabilitation center showed Nick was recovering positively, making the theory that he killed his parents seem even less convincing. The FBI started raising new doubts. Was Nick truly the only killer, or just the easiest person to blame in a far more complicated picture? The fact that he was arrested less than 6 hours after the bodies were found fueled suspicion about how complete the initial investigation really was. Why did the LAPD appear to focus almost only on Nick instead of looking at other possibilities, especially when the security system never went off and he was simply the most familiar person in the home? Had Nick's publicly known history of addiction made him the perfect target to quickly close the case, stopping the public from digging deeper into political reasons linked to a father who had openly opposed Donald Trump? Nick Reiner's life had long been a drawn-out tragedy. From teenage years falling into heroin and cocaine, dozens of failed rehab attempts, months of homelessness drifting across multiple states, to a fragile attempt at making peace through a film made with his father. Rob and Michelle never gave up on their son, yet those psychological wounds seemed never to have fully healed. Interviews with neighbors and relatives painted a deeply contradictory picture. Nick appeared sorry and tried to make things right, yet he also lived in a state of extreme tension. On the night of the murders, the sounds of arguing, doors slamming, and shouting turned the Brentwood mansion into the center of a disaster, but nobody dared to say with certainty whether Nick was the one who struck or just a witness. Some investigators suggested Nick may have been encouraged or controlled by outside forces because he was vulnerable and easily harmed. The unusually fast arrest only made the suspicion of a complex conspiracy behind the scenes stronger. Who truly wanted Rob's classified materials to disappear? Who had enough reason to harm the entire family? Those questions made the case grow even more unclear. The investigation continued to speed up with coordination between the FBI and the LAPD, reviewing every piece of evidence, from classified documents and physical traces to Rob Reiner's private journal. Whatever the final result, the case had already shown darker corners of Hollywood that few people ever see, where glamour, power, and money hide fear, secrets, and complicated schemes. What happened in Brentwood served as a reminder that behind Hollywood's shining surface, there are always complicated stories and tragedies that are impossible to predict. Hollywood and the public still hadn't recovered from the shock of the mysterious deaths of Rob Reiner and Michelle Singer Reiner. As the FBI continued searching the Brentwood mansion, questions about the real cause, outside threats, and the role of those around them still hung without answers. From the classified materials in the basement to the deeply personal father and son diary, every detail seemed to tell a different story, leaving the public constantly wondering, was this simply a family tragedy or a well-planned conspiracy created by powerful forces? We want to hear your perspective. In your view, is Nick truly the killer or just a pawn sacrificed in a larger plan? How will the basement secrets and the sensitive documents be decoded? Leave a comment below and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can follow the next developments as the FBI continues tracing every clue to uncover the full heartbreaking story and the lesser-known shadows of Hollywood.